Alright, so related to hitboxes and hurtboxes, I'd like to discuss grabbing, throwing, and stage interactions like grabbing the ledge, because those are actually very related. So what you'll notice is on the first grab animation under the grab and throw category is this sort of initial grab, and there's no actual grab locator, which I'll explain about in a second. That's because it's a single hitbox, which simply has this checkbox grab player. So if the hitbox has grab player selected, you'll want to make sure that you started an action called start grab holding animation. This is very important. This will tell the game that not only are you going to grab the player here, but you need to start the grab holding animation, which is this, which means you're currently in this position. So if you grab them, it'll be like this, and you'll be in this holding pattern, and that's where the grab locator comes in. To add a grab locator, simply click new. One's already been added here, but you just click that, and that'll add it to your timeline. And from here, you can determine properties of the grabbed character. Where is the character grabbed? Is it behind the character? Is it where their hands are? Hint, it's usually where the character's hands are, but you can manipulate this and move this if you would like. You can also do additional things like rotate the character. So for example, I'm going to just show you what a normal grab looks like, and then I'll show you how flipping a direction or rotating can adjust the grab as well. So let's do that. So here is Grandbag, poor Grandbag. Here's my grab. You'll notice that I made contact and eventually I threw. If I miss, nothing happens as expected. But if I make contact and that hitbox hits the player, they're in this grab state, and then I can throw them, right? So let's see what happens when I add a flip direction flag. If I turn that on, what happens when I grab them? Look at that. They very briefly face the direction that they were originally, and then they flipped. And that's one setting you can adjust. Another one is rotation. So let's change this and change this to say 90. Let's see what happens to our friend Grandbag when we grab them this time. See, he immediately went on his side for that duration. The reason why he comes back up at the end is because when I go back to, let's say, forward throw in this case, the rotation is back to 0 degrees. If I wanted to maintain his angle there, I would simply change this value to 90 for each of these, and he would stay in his sideways state. Oh, I don't want to update that one. I want to update this one. Because each time you make adjustments to the position of the hand here where the character's grabbed, that's going to add a keyframe that has its own attributes. So for example here, you can see it moves based on where the character would be. Right, so think about where do you want that character to be during the animation when you're throwing them. This is a forward throw. A backward throw is something similar. So there's him kicking the character. Boom. And at the very last point of that throw, that's going to be important because you'll want to figure out based on an action when that character flies away. So as you can see, about 2 frames after the final grab locator here, there's an action called launch grabbed players. And here we'll determine what the damage is, the base power, the power multiplier, and then of course the launched angle, one of the more important things. So I'll show you why the launched angle is really important. I'm going to show you this back throw in action, and I'll show you how it goes the direction you expect. If I do a back throw, I expect him to go that way because I kicked him that direction. But if I were to do, say, something completely different, like I were to do a different direction, I'll show you how strange that can look. So let's say it's, 270. What happens then? Okay, he went straight down. So sort of odd compared to what you'd expect. So that's why the angle matters. It basically determines where the character flies. And so just to reiterate, a grab starts with a hitbox that has the grab player checked and then has the action start grab holding animation. It then goes to here and essentially waits for you, the player, to make a determination about what direction you want to throw them. Otherwise, it's going to stay in this for a certain period of time and then probably default to forward throw. And then once you make a direction on where you want to go, the character is going to move, and at some point the character is going to be launched through this action, right? And of course you can have the sound effects, the visual effects, whatever you'd like, just like with any of the other animations. So that's grabbing and throwing, and of course you have forward throw, backward throw, up throw, and down throw, so experiment with each one. There's some pretty creative ones from some of our base roster characters if you'd like to gain some inspiration there. Now let's talk stage interaction. So this is something that you may, if you have a sprite sheet already for your character, you may not have sprites for this because it's definitely platform fighter specific. So in this case, you'll want to have, there's an initial edge animation. And this is kind of like, you could consider this the idle or air idle of the ledge. If you just grab the ledge, you're just hanging here like this for a while. The helpful reference point is this central little dot here indicates where that ledge would be. So that's a helpful reference. Edge up, there's a period of invulnerability as you get up, and then that's where the hurt box comes back. Remember I said in an earlier video that when there's no hurt box, you're basically invincible. That is supposed to happen here as you get up, gives you a chance to recover and then resume the attack. Same thing happens with the edge attack. So there's a period of invulnerability, and then the hurt box and hit box appears of that attack. For edge jump, there's there's no period of vulnerability in this case, but this is where you get ready to jump, and then from here, there's an action that says jump from edge. This is pretty standard for a stage interaction of this type. And then there's a dodge, which is a bit longer in terms of invulnerability, because you're essentially rolling forward. And there's even this Boolean that's set to true for invincible. And you roll, and then eventually it turns that off here for invincibility, but this roll determines how far on the stage you go. In this situation, it's the dodge speed, and this sound plays. So that's pretty standardized if you want to use that as a default. That works great. And then lastly, what happens when you initially grab an edge of a stage. So this is what happens when that happens, right? So again, this little ball here is the reference for where the stage is. That'll help you visualize kind of how the stage works. And you'll just kind of, after this point, you'll go to and play this edge animation like we saw earlier, and it will loop here until you do an action. Either you'll drop the ledge, or you'll do one of these other actions, a jump, attack, a dodge, or just getting up in a standard way. So that is both grabs and ledges, and hopefully with these two sort of platform fighter specific things, you will get characters that are competitive and have a lot of variety in them. Thank you for watching.